Greetings, everybody. Welcome to week 12, Farm to Table. We're here. We made it. Awesome. Well, so flavor, right? Important. Flavor. We're going to talk about what flavors and textures you discovered in the dairy assignment last week. But before we get to that, I want to cover a few important things, which is one, most important, your week 12 assignment is going to be due on this Sunday, right? So we got 4 days, get cranking. If you've got a Valentine, whether it's yourself or a partner, maybe you should make yourself a nice dinner this weekend, right? Play it up. Just remember that that's due Sunday. All right, the class closes. Also, if you want extra credit, 5% added, all right? 5% added to your final grade. I'm not adding that until Tuesday, so you're not going to see that 5% leap if you take the end of course survey until then. But it's up at the top of the class. You all know the rock and roll. Log in, sign that up, give us feedback. So how Chef Greg and I can improve. What did you like? What did you not like? Right? Just like we've been giving you feedback and talking to you, we want to hear from you. What about the course would you have liked differently? Right? Think about the course. Think about us. What would improve, or what did you like? All right. So that's how we grow as well. Right? Getting feedback from you. That's kind of it. Other than for important stuff like that, Sunday, get it in earlier if you can, and of course survey for 5% extra credit. Does anybody have questions about that? Straightforward, right? All right, cool. So, any observations, experiences that anyone would like to share regarding week 11?
I got one for everybody.
Yeah, let's hear it.
My farmer cheese came out great. It came out exactly the way it should look when I Googled it. So I was happy with that. But what I was unhappy with was my unobservation as I was in the store. I grabbed what I thought was heavy cream. But when I got home and I looked in the bag, it was half and half.
Ah, okay.
And I stood there for an hour whipping something that I know deep down inside my heart was not going to turn into butter, and I felt like a smooth idiot.
No, that's okay. That's a good experience. It's a great experience, actually.
You could not make butter with half milk and half water.
You're right. Half and half, right? Remember, that's cream, right? That's part of that half.
Yeah.
Right? So you just didn't have enough fat content in half and half. And that's okay, Jason. That happens. That is totally a learning experience, right? So you realize, hey, I needed more fat content in that product to be able to make butter.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I wasn't able to go back to the store and turn it in because I didn't look. I was more in a conversation trying to explain to my wife exactly what it is we're doing than looking at my contents and my container to say, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Let me go back to the store real quick and change this in. So now I feel like a failure.
Don't feel like that happens. All it means is, hey, now you know, hey, when I'm doing my shopping or when I'm doing my inventory list, I need to be focused. I really don't need to be having side conversations. All it means is like focus, right? Don't feel like failure. That happens to all of us, right? Things happen. You buy the wrong product. I mean, hello, it happens to everybody, Jason. It happens to people when they're doing massive orders, all right? Learn that lesson now when all you did was buy maybe 32 16 ounces, right? Don't learn that lesson when we're buying 32 cases of half and half, right? This is a blessing in disguise. Don't worry, shake it off. And know, hey, the next time, if I want to make some butter, I'm getting that heavy whipping cream, all right?
My next question is, can you use whole butter? I mean, whole milk, my bad. Whole milk to also make butter. Am I correct?
Uh, the only thing that I'm thinking, I've never tried to make butter with whole milk, but your fat percentage, right? Whole milk hovering around, what is it, 8 to 9%?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, and then heavy whipping cream, we're looking at 30 to 33%.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't have enough fat.
Okay, I got
So
it.
all you would get all, like, if it even ever got to that point, which it might after, an hour of whipping, you're going to be left with like that much fat as opposed to 4 times that quantity, right?
Okay. All right.
So you want to go high fat. Remember, high fat, because fat is pure butter. Butter is pure fat.
Got you. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you,
Cool.
miss.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else?
My
Sandra,
roommate loved that.
your roommate loved the butter?
And the cheese. Now he wants me to make mozzarella.
You can do it.
Oh yeah, I'm
Awesome.
gonna try it.
All right. Cool. Fantastic. Love it. All right. I see Sandra, we spoke, and she had a recipe from her dad who taught her how to make, used to make butter from shaking it in a jar, right? Again, it's that vibration, it's separating, it's that mechanical active energy that's breaking down. But what was a result? Took a lot longer than that mixer, right? So that's why we do say, hey, sometimes innovation, product, technology is really beneficial. Sometimes get a different product, right? Quicker, speed. So, chef.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk about? Anything that you saw regarding?
Seems like everybody got the cheese down right away, so which was good. A couple of hiccups on some butters. A lot of it just was the length of time people were whipping it. So remember, things are going to change a little bit. So you want it to be cold. So if you took the KitchenAid out and your bowl was warm and your mixer was warm, friction adds heat. It's going to take a little bit longer. If you had everything in the freezer, kind of like when you guys made sausage back in 122, then it's going to go a little quicker because those fats are already starting to be cold and they're going to solidify quicker. And then even things with like altitude, humidity, it's wintertime, so a lot of us have the heat on right now. All those things can affect length of time. Just like it can on baking, it can also with fat content. It can adjust on that. So if you're using a hand mixer or if you're just using your hand, it is gonna take a little bit longer to get those fats separated, but you just have to get to that point, past whipped cream, get to that point, and then just go a little bit further, and it'll actually just start to pull right apart for you. But a lot of good compound butters, which is awesome. And I tried to say it in everybody's feedback. If a compound butter is like a clean slate, if you guys want sweet compound butter, we were talking, somebody mentioned Longhorn Steakhouse, the cinnamon honey butter, super easy to do. It's a great base. Maitre d' butter, so it's kind of endless, the amounts of textures, colors. You can reduce red wine, put syrup in it, make it pink. Valentine's Day coming up, so if you have any plain butter left, real easy to do that. But good work, everybody. Good.
Awesome. Thanks, chef.
And garlic. Oh yeah, garlic steak butter. I mean garlic butter steak. Oh yeah.
Again, flavor, right? Adding aromatics, onion, garlic, leek. Right? All right. Cool. So I hope that everybody enjoyed that process and experienced how it developed or didn't, and how to analyze that and understand it on another level. So cool. All right. Well, class, this is week 12. This is the final cooking assignment that you will have at Escoffier. Now, that's not your last assignment period, because you will be taking another course and then moving on to externship. All right. But this is your final course to present to us. So let's see what you have. Bring your A game, bring your creativity, bring whatever you want to the table. Say, hey, this is my thought. This was my idea. This was my creation, or this is something that I really love that I wanted to improve upon, and send that in as your appetizer and main course for this week. Show us your game, show us your skills, show your creativity, show your palette, show us what's favorite, right? You have free reign on this assignment, okay? In the sense that You're making an appetizer, you're making an entree. What do we know about what you want when you go and sit in at a restaurant? What do you want from an appetizer?
Potato skins.
Potato skins, okay. What else?
Want something that tastes good, but that's not going to fill you up.
Perfect, perfect, exactly. Something that really tastes good, but it's not going to fill you up. It's not going to kill you for the main course, right? Okay. Also, what else? What else do we think that an appetizer? What else do we want from an appetizer?
Typically warm, flavorful, enough to stimulate the palate to make you hungry.
All right, great. Stimulating that palate. All right. Perfect. So we've got one comment in the chat about no dripping sauces. And okay, I will say I understand where you're coming from. However, I think it's really about how much sauce you put on whatever you're dipping in, right? You don't want something really runny, but you might want a sauce. You might want a soup. You want, you want something to accompany your dish, right? You always want that second component, okay? You want that contrast. Again, how do we whet the appetite? It's not necessarily just going to be one flavor, okay, or one thing. We want something to involve the entire palate, whether it's a soup, a salad, a charcuterie board, a shareable platter, right? You want something that's hitting kind of a lot of different areas. So think about that when you're creating. Yeah, Andy, something about that you can share at a table, right? So think about that when you're creating that appetizer, all right, for this weekend. And then let's go, what do you want in an entree? What's anybody looking for? You go to a restaurant, what do you want when you're going in for your main course? What are you expecting?
I want something that's going to want to make me want more. Something more, even more appetizing than the appetizer.
Okay, yeah, definitely. But so, and that entree, what are you expecting? What do you want?
I want to be satisfied when I finish.
Satisfied when you finish. Okay. We got a meat, a veg, and a starch. Something filling. All right. What else? Meat, veg, and starch. What else? What did Escoffier create a lot of his kitchen on?
I want those flavors that accompany each other.
Okay, flavors, definitely. Colors, yeah. Sauces, thank you, Andy. Yes, sauce, right? If we just have, okay, we can have a great piece of grilled meat and a nice starch, right? Perfectly cooked. A good crisp vegetable, nice color, vibrant, but without a sauce, right? Do you order that steak because it has a balsamic red wine reduction butter sauce? Heck yeah, you do, right? That's what gets you intrigued. That's that next level, right? Think about your sauce. Think about your garnish. A sauce doesn't have to go on all three components, but there's probably one component, right, that needs a sauce. Usually that protein, right? Think about a braise. A braise comes with its own sauce. You think about a stir fry. Sauces are added to that stir fry, right, to give a certain type of coating. Condiments, right? Cool. Make something you've never had but want to try. Perfect, Sandra. Yeah. Chef and I would like to say, hey, challenge yourselves. push yourselves. This is literally the last cooking assignment you're gonna submit for school. How many techniques have you learned? You know how to braise, you know how to fry, you know how to shallow poach, you know how to deep fry. What else do you know?
There is oh so much that we have learned.
Yeah, and
So
there's more
much.
and more to learn. Exactly. So find something and do it and have fun and be passionate about it. All right. You all entered school because you were passionate about cooking. Let's see that on the plate. Let's see your passion. Let's see your inspiration. What drives you? What moves you? All right. We're all artists. What we put on the plate is a representation of us. If somebody loves Cajun food, Creole cooking, that's what they're going to make. If you love Indian food, you're going to make that. If you love classic French, maybe you're going to make a boeuf bourguignon. All right. So have fun. Show us what you got. Make sure those components are there. We want to see a meat, a veg, starch. All right. Give us a sauce, a garnish. Give us something. Give yourself something. More importantly, give your customer something. Put yourself in the seat of a customer receiving that dish, that appetizer and that entree. How does it feel? And what is it like? Would you be satisfied? There's one saying, I'm gonna leave you on this, which is, I forget who said it, but something about you're only good as your last dish, your last plate, right? So that's a little hard to take sometimes, but it's something to say, hey, I'm gonna use that and work and spring forward. Maybe you mess something up. We've talked about that before. I've messed stuff up. Who hasn't? Everybody has. Use that as a springboard to be better, to improve yourself. All right. So let's just have fun. All right. Let's see what you got. Take everything and show us what you have. That's all I'm going to say. Does anybody actually, I'm going to pull up the assignment page and see if anybody has questions on it. And then we're going to talk a little bit about wine and local beer and distilleries, and that's about it. All right. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention. Hey, guess what? All new work, right? Not the time to bring anything up from a past assignment. Somebody else has already graded that, right? So let's see something new. Okay, final plating. This is a lot on you, and this will show us how and where you think important critical steps are in the process. All right, so as you can see, let's see that plant progress. Maybe it died, just let us know. Photo, started a new one, et cetera, et cetera. But 3 photos demonstrating proper technique throughout the process. For your app and for your entree, done, all right? Photo of 1 finished app with mindful plating. Photo of 1 garnished entree with mindful plating. Very easy, right? Pretty straightforward. Show us this. Show us your mise en place. If you've got a bunch of stuff on your finished dish that wasn't in your mise en place, where did it come from? All right, think about it. All right, that's kind of it. Any questions on that? You don't have any knowledge checks. You don't have anything. It's just cooking this week.
I was just going to say, Chef Greg, I sent you a picture of the sprout that I had of my plant. The cats ate it an hour later.
That definitely does happen.
Cats kill herbs.
I felt lucky I got the one picture of the sprout before they got it.
Very true. Very true.
Awesome. All right, cool. If there are no questions about the assignment, what we would like to do is take this time to talk a little bit. We talked a lot about farm to table, right? We hope that you start to observe and see where and when to analyze, where and when to pay more for certain products, how you can contribute, how you can build a community and something that's sustainable, whether it's in 2% or 20%, all right, or 82%, whatever that percentage is, making those steps. And last but not least, what else falls into farm to table? What are we drinking at these restaurants? What are restaurants offering? right? There's food.
Wine.
Wine. What else? Beer. What else? Beer, wine.
Milk. Milk.
Milk. Okay. Yeah. Did you say milk. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Actually, cocktails and mocktails. All right. So juice. Right. So let's talk a little bit about wine. Chef. Chef over here, if you remembered from week 1, is quite knowledgeable in the world of the wine house, and the floor is yours, Chef.
Thank you very much. So, can somebody give me a state that they live in?
Washington.
Louisiana.
Anna.
Washington and Indiana. Perfect. Okay, so little fun fact is that there is a winery in every single state in America. Pretty interesting. We think of things like California, and that's pretty obvious. We know things start to get a little more interesting when we get into like New Mexico. We have Alaska, but we are going to look for our eye. Okay, so the best vineyard in Indiana, Oliver Winery and Vineyards. Okay, so let's think about Indiana for a second. Let's think about the climate. Pretty decent summer, little mix of humidity. Definitely start though to get into the wintertime. We're not going to be able to grow grapes in the wintertime. Same thing we do have when we get down to, all the way down to Wisconsin and Washington. So Gramercy cellars. So let's think about Washington State for a second, right next to the coast. So we have coastal air, we have a little more moisture, we have more rain. So with that being said, just like with vegetables, things are going to be affected by the soil, by the conditions, and by where it's growing from, how far it has to travel. So just like when you talk about food, a tomato, or you talk about corn, you're getting a lot of those same instances with wine. You're getting the same thing with seasonality. You're getting the same thing with all those aspects. So into a little bit more. So this is a winery like 2 miles from my house in Delaware. So if you look at just some of the grapes that they have here. So we see a Cabernet, we see Merlot, we see a Cab Franc. So a lot of what a winery is going to be able to serve and grow is going to be based on their area. It's not super, super cold here. Indiana, however, is. So maybe they have a Riesling. So what you can actually serve is going to be what you can grow. Just like when you're talking about farming, you're going to get a lot of those same principles as you get now. So with that being said, let's look at a bigger picture. Let's look beyond the United States. So into the United States, we're going to the world now. So we see some good ones on here, right? We see South America. Obviously, we got California in there, our biggest one, US. We see Europe, France, huge one. South Africa, another huge one. These are all based off of climates. So we have the equator, and then we have 30 to 50 above the equator, and we have 30 to 50 below the equator. And those lines are what we can grow the best, but that's all based off of our climate, all based off of what we can actually grow. And then that's going to be the better wine of what we can serve. So just like we did the wineries in every state, this is a little more interesting. South America, awesome wines. Australia, again, Australia, New Zealand. Asia, a little more surprising on that. Africa, North America, Europe, we know hugely, hugely famous. But then we start to get into this. So this is obviously a little more surprising. Antarctica. How are we growing grapes in Antarctica? When we talk about growing seasons and things affected by the soil, especially by the weather, it is not warm in Antarctica. So how is that happening? What are we actually making and serving? So it is definitely very interesting. One person's doing it, and they're doing it way down here in the south. And a couple of fun facts about this. So how do we think the soil is? It is salty. That makes perfect sense. So that salt is going to change the content of the wine. It's going to be a little bit salty in that. It's going to change the acidity. It's obviously definitely going to change the flavor. But a couple of other interesting facts is, if I can't find it, so they need to plant the vines 60 feet apart to obtain proper nutrients. This isn't like seeing those hills in France that are really steep and all those vines are right next to each other. 60 feet apart just for enough nutrients in the soil. Obviously, though, the growing season is going to be really, really short. It's going to be very small. So our wines are going to be super, super acidic. They don't have that full time to ripen. But also a little interesting is penguins. Penguins crawl up this little hill, a little bit warmer for them. They're all hanging out. They're also fertilizing the soil. They're fertilizing the wines that are coming out of Antarctica. So there is a place in Antarctica called Shackleton's, also really cool. They have a little tasting room. It has been around forever. And what they do is they get a lot of products mainly from New Zealand, like crazy cheeses, crazy whiskeys, wine from Antarctica. And you can actually go and do a tasting in Antarctica and have wine in Antarctica. It's a pretty crazy fact. But relating a little bit more into what we talk about. So let's just talk about some basics of wine for 1 second. So wine is fermentation. We have sugar in our grape juice. We have yeast. Yeast eat our sugar. Alcoholic fermentation is where we get alcohol from. And then carbon dioxide. So regularly, if a glass of Chardonnay, it's not going to be bubbly. However, a glass of champagne, it is bubbly. We're keeping that carbon dioxide in there. So with those processes, just like making and just like growing, you really start to attach to food. When you talk about things like organic, you talk about things like sustainable, you talk about things like natural processes. All of those things are going to be anything that we consume now, really. It's going to be beer, it's going to be liquor. So people are looking more and more for that. People don't want something with a lot of additives in it, whether they're eating it, whether they're drinking it. People don't want things that aren't necessarily the best. They want a pure product in there. They want pure grapes. Obviously, that's a lot easier said than done, because we think about growing grapes, it has to be outside. And it's all, honestly, it's all just weather dependent. That's why some wines are more expensive than others. If you think about a vintage, like 2012 in California had a really big drought. The wines were more concentrated. They had higher alcohol, they had a higher sugar content, but there wasn't a huge yield. Brings up the price, but all weather dependent. So with saying that it's so relative to food, so we do have organic wine, which we can buy. We have biodynamic wine, so wine that's hypothetically grown in a holistic approach. So look at some of the words in here. Entire vineyard with nature and moon cycles. We're not just talking about rain and sunlight in that point. We're talking about a lot of things like the magnetism of the earth and thinking about where the vineyard is as a whole, not just your actual individual vines. So sustainable wine, sustainable food, a lot of the same thing. So there's no actual, sustainable in wine is more of a practice. You can have an organic label on a wine. The government doesn't have like a sustainable label that you could put on a wine, but it's people making the efforts to serve local wine. So instead of maybe buying a bottle from California, maybe I go 2 miles down the road and I buy a bottle from here. I buy it local. I buy something a little more local to myself. This didn't have to travel as far. I actually had to travel to go get it. So it starts to get into that locality of wine. And as we know, there is a winery in every state, which again, you start to get into Alaskan stuff, it's a little bit crazy. So when you get into organic wines, it's going to be a little bit different and a little bit of the same as actually talking about food. So you're going to see a thing up here. It says, dilemma with organic wines is the importance of sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, sulfites, in a wine does a couple of things. One, the biggest one, it preserves the wine. Two, it controls oxygen. So as we know, if we had wine and we just let it sit out on the counter for a month, it pretty much will turn into vinegar from oxidation. So in an organic wine, we cannot have sulfites. We can use herbicides. We can use pesticides. approved ones, of course. Chef Catherine loves this. Mega Purple is this super concentrated, craziest looking thing you've ever seen. And they put it in wine, and that's how actually like you can get more of a purple color. So some wines have more of a ruby, but maybe you want it to look more purple. So, but we can add that in. And it says right here, most bizarre chemicals. We can use a lot of things, but the one thing we can't do is use sulfites. So when you think a lot about wine, there's a couple of different things. So people are like, I taste wine, I taste cherries, I taste black currants, ripe plum. Those are coming from the actual grape. So all those aspects, the sunlight, the currents, the wind, all those are coming from the grape. So then we have some other flavors. And people are like, it tastes like cream, it tastes like butter. How exactly does Chardonnay taste like butter? When wine is made and it's matured, there's a thing called malolactic acid, and it occurs in the wine. Now they can stop this, they can actually eliminate it completely, but think of the word in there, lactic. Lactic acid, like cream, like milk. That's how we get butter flavor in wine. So that's coming from how we're actually maturing our wine. Are we doing it in bottles? Are we letting it touch oxygen on purpose? So all those things are secondary. Then more importantly, and this relates to our sulfites, is when you hear people say it tasted like tobacco and shoe leather, it tasted like dirt and natural soil. That comes from aging, bottle aging. The older it is, the more of those crazy real flavors you're gonna get. And that's when you hear it and you're like, there's no way it tastes like a cigar. It's sat in the bottle long enough that it's starting to pick up those flavors. Now we know sulfites preserve wine. So a huge dilemma here is an organic wine, you cannot age this for 10 years. You just open it up, you'd have a bottle of vinegar. So what happens to the price? A lot of older wines are more expensive, availability goes into that. But now we're charging more for organic wine because of the process, but we're not charging more for organic wine for the changes of flavor. We don't have enough time for that to develop. So from a market standpoint, from an organic standpoint, we're drinking organically, we're serving organic wines. Yes, but depending on what type of wine you're looking for, depending on what type of experience you're pairing for food, you're not going to get all those same things. You're going to have to be really specific of what we pair food for. It's not going to bring flavors of old oak into a venison dish because you don't have time for that. We can't let this oxidize because we don't have sulfites. So definitely pretty crazy when you get into organics. But the last couple of things, so this just says millennials, 90% of millennials surveyed are willing to pay more for sustainably produced wine. $3 more a bottle and up. That's not organic wine. It's sustainable. They're doing efforts. They're trying to be local. They're trying to ship not as far away, all those things. But $3 more a bottle is a lot of money when you talk about what a yield of grapes grow from an entire year. And also, I was going to read this. It's a little bit small, but it says, from a marketing point of view, sustainability can be considered as a way to differentiate wine to meet some market segment demands. So people, just like when you go to the grocery store and you see the shelf and we have natural Cheetos and organic Pop-Tarts and all those crazy things, people want to buy that. People want to eat it. People want to make more of an effort at it. It's going to be the same thing now with wine, which really brings up like the biggest point is the value of wine is going to be different. You're not going to talk about yields per year. You're not going to talk about specific vintages. You're going to talk about sustainability efforts is going to raise the price of sustainability wine. And within the last maybe 6 years ongoing, that's never happened before. There was always a wine was picked from this vineyard in France all 1 year, not mixed with anything else. And there was 250 cases made. It's starting to bring up the price. Now, however, what was the sustainability behind those 250 cases? And that's what's going to raise your wine. It doesn't necessarily raise your quality. It definitely doesn't necessarily change what you can do with a wine. And that is a pretty crazy thing to think about on a market standpoint. And since we've been talking about so much natural and talking about so much organic, time to switch the pages. And they have something called synthetic wine. And I talk about Chef Catherine about this, and I have a huge fascination about it.
Chef,
Go
can we
ahead.
just say, class, how crazy is this? Synthetic wine,
So,
synthetic food. What are we eating? What are we drinking? All right, continue,
all right.
Chef.
So synthetic wine. Okay. So synthetic wine. So let's see what this guy says that runs this. We can turn water into wine in 15 minutes. Water into wine in 15 minutes. There is no grapes in this. There's no bottling. There is no malolactic acid conversion. Synthetic, 100% synthetic wine. That is absolutely insane. Now, let's see. It says, if you're ever interested in wine, definitely look at this thing called the Judgment of Paris, 1976. This guy came over, got what he thought was the best California wines, brought them to France, blind tasted everybody that was supposedly an expert, and all the experts chose California wines in the 70s. It like blew people's minds. It was absolutely insane. So with that being said, there are still bottles from 1974, 1975, and 6 that were served at this. I can't afford a bottle. I would never even be in the same room or probably state as a bottle. However, if you can synthetically make that, and I could experience the taste of wine that they served at the Judgment of Paris, I absolutely would buy it. In 15 minutes, they can make it. They can synthetically change the flavor compounds in a $30,000 bottle of wine, and they could sell it to you for $80. That also super, super, super changes the market. So is a $30,000 bottle of wine anymore? Is it $30,000 Is it $30,000? I honestly don't know. I can't buy one, but it's crazy to think about. It's just absolutely insane because people that can afford a $30,000 bottle, maybe they bought the $80 one and they're like, well, you know, maybe I'll do it to have in a collection, but it didn't really age that well over 45 years. So definitely a lot to think about in wine. You can make an enormous money off of it. Your profit on wine is going to be a lot bigger and a lot different than your profit on food. You're gonna make a lot more money on booze, always, always. That's all I got. Does anybody have any questions on wine? I guess without getting crazy about specifics of making it.
I just want to know, why are you green?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Why is your screen green?
Okay, good question. It does have a yellowish tone to it. So we obviously use a computer a lot. You can turn on the night vision on your computer and it takes out the blue light. So it just helps with your eyes sitting 10, 12 hours on a computer.
I feel you. I was just kind of wondering because I was like, wow, he just went green.
The battery, like the battery saver kicked on and then it like takes the night vision and it makes it like dark. That's why I did it for a second. But does anybody have any wine questions? Fair enough.
I didn't see any green, Chef, so maybe I'm out of it. No, Chef, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Class, as Chef was saying, okay, obviously a ton of information, right? But I just want to hang on to that last little point that he said. Where are you going to make your money? Where do you make a lot of your money? Profit. Alcohol sales,
Ooh.
right? Yeah, booze. Because guess what? Unless you have staff that's pouring extra stiff drinks or drinking on the job, how much waste are you really going to have? Food waste, food cost. Got somebody prepping and peeling and cooking and da 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 da. Front of the house, I'm pouring. So unless I'm dropping that bottle or pouring too much, really low waste on that, right? Yeah. And people are willing to pay more for alcohol out at a restaurant than they are for food, which is really interesting. You know, when you think about it, there's time and craft and love going into cooking, and there's also time and craft and love going into that alcohol or non-alcoholic chai, a tea, coffee, right? A really nicely produced cider. So you just don't have that loss on yield, right? When it comes to booze. So most alcohol is marked up about 3 times per, what it sells, what you're buying it for. So most food, how much are we marking that up for with a 25 to 30% food cost? Right? So if you can get a liquor license, do it. And add in some local wine. Add in, we started 5 minutes late, so we're still okay. Add in, I'm just gonna tap off of on Chef here, right? He's talking about all the wine that pairs wonderfully. Guess what? What about beer? What about alcohol? What about distilleries? What about cocktails, mocktails, right? I'm gonna pull this up briefly, just so you can see it. And then we are gonna wrap this up. But check this out. Microbreweries, who's heard of craft beer? Who likes to drink it? Who likes Bud? No problem. Guess what? Number of operating craft breweries in the United States from 2006 to 2018. Whoa, hello, what happened? Huge, huge increase. High demand for these products. Okay. 2006, 1,400. 2018, close to 7,400 of operating craft breweries. If you don't think you can get a locally sourced beer, you're out of your mind. Start to look, find something. I'll tell you this much. When I go into a new town that I've never been in and I'm rolling into a restaurant, I'm trying to get something local. I want to try a local craft beer because most likely I'm not going to try that beer somewhere else, or I'm going to try and get a locally produced wine or a locally distilled spirit. Here's one more thing. Spirits, right? Distillers. All right. Here we go. Boom. All right. This is the states with this is an infographic of the states with the most distilleries, craft distilleries. All right. So more than 100. California got 148, 64, 106. I don't see one state, excuse me, that doesn't have something locally distilled. Even Alaska and Hawaii. All right. So, number of U.S. craft distilleries rises by 26%. That was just in the year of 2018. All right. So, what are we getting at? It's not just food. It's booze. It's sourcing. It's the entire idea and concept of how you are trying to help as opposed to hinder, right? How are you contributing as opposed to pulling back? Even small little things can have a huge impact. Don't think that something small won't go noticed. Having a local glass of wine, having a local beer, having a local distillery spirit, right? Having some local bread, getting some greens in or one product here and there makes a difference, right? So, class, does anybody have any questions? No? All right. Well, let's wrap this up. And I hope that all of you just continue to learn. And yeah, Lorenzo? Oh, no?
Yes. Well, it's something about my assignments. I can still turn it in, no? Because I haven't done the last one, the week.
Your week 12 is due on this Sunday. And your week 11, you have that late period that goes until tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you didn't do week 11, drop that in. You'll be good to go. And then you guys just knock out that week 12, get it in early. The earlier you get it in, the earlier you get to relax. So think about that. All right. Otherwise, class, if you have cooking questions, if you have anything, you're going to have one more class after this. But remember that we're all here for you. We're here to help you, guide you. If you have questions, reach out to us. We want to help, right? So keep pushing, keep rocking. Thank you all for showing up and being here for live sessions and contributing and being a part of the conversation. And really do not hesitate to reach out to either one of us or any of the other chefs that you've had throughout your time here. You'll have one more class, but otherwise kick butt and keep cooking. All right. Chef, anything?
I may see some of you all in your last class. So I hope that I do see all of you, but best of luck on everything and do great on your externship and just learn as much as you can.
Right on. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Knock it out and reach out. Thank you, Chef. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. It has. Last one. Thank you.
Yeah, last one, Chef.
Thank you.
Jeffs.
Thank you all. Take care. Seriously, I mean it. Reach out if you have questions. Use us as a resource. You all have us, right? There's no reason not to, all right? So, you got questions? Hey, if it's even about your last dish, should I add this or that or that? Reach out. Let us know, all right? Take care and keep on flavoring. Bye.